Hi, it's Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review. This will be an early and brief review of the new Steven Wilson album, The Overview. I will preface things by saying this is pretty much my favorite human making music. Lately, not everything he makes hits me as it did when I first discovered him, but the journey is always worth it. No matter how much I like or dislike one of his current solo albums, I go, it wasn't like anything else I've listened to lately, and that's what I like about the artist. Now, long story short, I discovered Porcupine Tree. A friend of mine gave me In Absentia, and the love affair began. At that time, they were re-releasing the older albums remastered, some of them in surround sound, so I picked up the older stuff. Got into Porcupine Tree, road trip to see them a whole bunch, from Dead Wing all the way up until they retired, so to speak. I saw them touring a lot. Every time they would come to Florida, I went all the way to Canada, New York, Nashville. I saw Porcupine Tree a lot. Then Steven Wilson went solo. He seemed to come to Florida all the time. I saw every single solo tour. Actually finally got to interview him after 10 years of being a fan. It worked out and the planets aligned and I got to sit down with the guy. He's about a year younger than me. We see the world in a lot of the same ways. I can't say everything. He's a vegetarian. I'm not. He's married with 2 stepchildren. I am not. But, and I don't always agree with some of where he comes from. But then again, I don't agree with every filmmaker or author. Art is art, and he makes art that connects with me most of the time. There is not a Porcupine Tree album that doesn't connect with me. The latest took a little bit more, but again, I like movies. I like albums that I have to listen to more than once. All that being said, your appreciation of this album, I hate to say this, will depend on your surround sound setup. This was crafted to be a conceptual album, a classic kind of concept album of 2 roughly 20-minute long tracks. The overview is about the overview effect. The whole idea of it is he came upon this concept that is common with NASA and astronauts. When you go up into space, you see the world differently and you see our place in the universe differently. It has its ups and downs, this overview effect. You see our tenuous connection to each other and the fact that in a second we could just be wiped out in the nothingness of the universe. The overview effect is stunning for most astronauts, and they usually come back to Earth very much more connected to the human race, wanting to be more connected to things here on the planet. So the idea of this concept album was to go through all of that in 40 some odd minutes. And I think he does. I had the rare opportunity of kind of not listening to this album until I got the box set. I learned a long time ago to just pre-order his box set, shut up and pay the money, because I love them on the shelf and my OCD wouldn't let me miss one, which I did miss one. I'm missing one, and if anybody has a copy of the box set of the Harmony Codex they would like to get rid of, please let me know, because they were supposed to get more copies of the box set. They didn't. I have the surround sound disc, but and the files I got from the record label, but that's it. The overview, on the other hand, I pre-ordered it because, well, he said it was going to be a concept album. He said it was about space. He said it was going to go back to those kind of book editions he did before, not the stuff with Sony. I noticed when I got this, it's Fiction Virgin, which is a change. Anyway, you want to hear about the album. I said that your enjoyment would probably depend on your surround sound, and it does. So this rare opportunity to my first listen was the perfect way to listen to it. Turned the lights down low, turned it up loud. My neighbors weren't home, and I listened to the overview all the way through in the Dolby Atmos mix and was blown away by it. There are things that swirl around you, how the vocals are mixed and how everything kind of flows in and out. It takes you places in an audio way like a movie does watching it. I've said this about some of his mixes before, but this is way more. Well, because his idea is to make a space music album, and he did. So right after listening to the whole album, I had to run out to one of our transmitter sites, and it's one of the ones that's the farthest out. It's about 55 miles round trip. So I burned the stereo copy, and I threw it in my truck, and I drove and back and listened to the whole thing straight through with the bonus tracks, too. and got a completely different experience out of it. It was okay. A lot of it I really like. I mean, a lot of the themes, melodies, and some of the actual songs I really love. But they're mixed in with some Tangerine Dream-esque ambient stuff, some electronic stuff, and other, which all worked so well in a surround sound mix that in a stereo mix was just kind of like, all right, I'm ready for the next song. You know, it just kind of, it laid there. It didn't envelop you like it did in the surround sound. And I don't think there's too many albums or have ever been too many albums that are like that, where the mixes make that much of a difference. Now, the last Peter Gabriel album, the last Pearl Jam album, those were mixed in Atmos. And in my reviews, I said, the stereo versions are great. Those albums sound great in stereo. They were much better in Atmos for whatever reason. The mix was better. It just hits you better. It surrounds you. It's a whole different experience. And Atmos is a different than 5.1 experience, and I'm glad more artists are getting into it. But for this album, I thought it was okay in stereo, but in surround sound, it's 5 stars. So I'd give 3.5 to the whole project. Sitting there with the book, it comes with a very thick hardback book. A lot of pictures. This has been sold out for a while. Some of the pictures fold out, so you get a 4-panel wide screen shot of. Well, the artwork is incredible. I hate to pronounce Hajo's name, but if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, I'm sorry. But the artwork this time really works to convey what you're listening to. To talk about individual tracks, there's 2. Some people like the first one better. Some people like the second one better. There's some spoken word stuff, which doesn't usually work for me in the second part. It's his wife, and I don't have a problem with that. Actually, it sounds great. I know in the long run of what I listen to, spoken and in radio, spoken word stuff doesn't stick around very long unless it's intricately weaved into the music, say Pink Floyd, The Wall. There's a lot of extra stuff, the phone calls and stuff and the ringing phones and things that are mixed into the music that you really can't take it out, and you wouldn't want to take it out. It's part of the song to have that in there. I think this is done to that effect. You really can't have what's going on, the description, what she's doing, what this is all about, the journey through space kind of thing, would be different if it wasn't there. And I also see how all of this plays differently in stereo than it does in surround. Again, there are pieces, parts. He released for a couple of days a digital version that you could download that chopped it up into the individual songs. I did not. I started to pick it up because that'd be easier for my radio station. But in the long story short, I just put the 2 tracks on my prog station and let them roll. One's over 20 minutes, one's 18 and change. They're both really great works. Again, on stereo, on my radio, long songs don't always work on radio stations. Sometimes people get bored, and I could see how you might. So we'll see how that goes going forward. I might edit them down to individual songs, and we'll see. I haven't spent enough time with the album to tell you that. But my unique experience of being able to listen to it in Atmos and then about 5 minutes later listen to it in stereo, 2 listens, 2 completely different experiences from an artist I really enjoy. So, yeah, I'd give the album in stereo about 3.5, maybe inching towards 4 if you have the box set and can really take in the lyrics and the whole idea of the whole thing. On the flip side, if you have surround sound, I think you're going to be blown away by it. The Blu-ray disc that came with the box set, I think, is available separately by itself. So basically, by not buying the box set, you're not getting the bonus tracks, which is an orchestral version of one of the songs, which is really interesting. That's also on the Blu-ray in surround sound. There's some early versions of some of the songs. That's also on the Blu-ray in surround sound. And then there's a couple of things that are only in stereo, but they're also interesting. So the Blu-ray disc this time around has some interesting stuff, and it has video that plays the whole time. It's kind of a static image with video, but it's nice for that. Because a lot of surround sound albums have just a menu, and you just sit there, and it just sits there. And yeah, people used to worry about burn-in and stuff like that. It's not so much a problem these days. But anyway, I really dig it in surround sound. On first couple of listens, I think it's great. I don't know that it's going to be one I listen in my car. I'd have to break down the songs. And I got that idea from listening to the bonus tracks, where the early versions or the orchestral version is actually pretty interesting. I'm glad he didn't release that as the album, but there's some incredible playing on here. The guitar work from Randy McSign stood out. There was a couple guitar solos that I thought were as good as anything on even any Steven Wilson album, and he's had some great guitar players in this band. Craig Blundell on drums, awesome. Adam Holtzman on keyboards, really interesting stuff. When I say somebody on keyboards, you used to say that in a rock context, people go, oh God, they have a keyboard player. But, you know, the two dudes he works with for his solo music and the work in Porcupine Tree, they craft sounds live while they're going. It's not just playing recorded bits and things like that. It's really impressive. It's actually a musical education you get on the keyboards there. It's interesting. But anyway, long story short, the overview, your mileage will vary based on how you can listen to it. You might like some of the individual songs, but if you're not into a 43-minute concept album, that may not be your cup of tea. I really got some kind of Lamb Lies Down on Broadway kind of vibes listening to it, along with some more modern stuff, just because it went from one thing to another. We're talking about space. We're talking about somebody on Earth and their life. It just kind of bounced around the ideas, but they were all part of the whole. Very audio cinematic journey that I'm glad I had the book to go through while listening to it. So again, for me being a radio guy, are there singles on here? You might be able to cut one or two out of there and might work in certain contexts, like a prog station like mine, but it's not that thing. This is something I'll pull out when I want a 42-minute journey through space with Steven Wilson and listen to it with surround sound, maybe with somebody else in the room, have the lights down low and enjoy. But it's fairly short. You know, a lot of people try and make these things epic. Yes, it's two very long songs, but it's a 42-minute album. You watch TV series that are longer. The Overview by Steven Wilson, one of my favorite artists. I think it's a surround sound masterpiece. As a cinematic journey prog album, it's pretty darn good, but as something you're going to throw in your car and jam like a Porcupine Tree album, that it's not. And that's another thing. It's definitely not Porcupine Tree. It feels like Steven Wilson. I am looking forward to them releasing the movie that was created to go along with this. I think that should have been included in the box set, probably timing issues and stuff that wasn't available. But on the IMAX previews and some of his they show this movie that was created by an artist to go along with the musical journey. I want to see that. Your mileage may vary, but I dig it. It's another one that I like better than some of his albums and not as much as some of the others. Looking forward to more Porcupine Tree if they get around to that. I'm Scott. I'm ROCKFILE. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment below if you have, conversation. I'd love to have interesting conversation about music and movies and that stuff with people who are like-minded. So, thank you again for listening to a podcast, kind of a big thing that you do in 2025. Have a spectacular day.